Portrayals of Disabilities in the Media Project by Shannon Wiseman, Mara Hillen, and Tristan Alava. How are disabilities portrayed in the media? Negative or positive? How they changed over time? What challenges have people with disabilities faced in media? Are these stereotypes biased in any truth? Were people with disabilities consulted in the making of the movie? Let's look at an example of disabilities in the media pre and post 2000s. Forrest Gump came out in 1994. Forrest Gump is an award-winning film about the life of a person with a developmental disability. It would follow protagonist Forrest Gump on his journey through post-World War II America through the lens of his developmental disability. It was highly praised at the time and won 6 Academy Awards in 1995 and be one of the most successful movies of the decade. But how well does it actually do at portraying disability? Visual images of disabilities in Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump is portrayed to have an intellectual disability. He has a physical disability, leg braces as a child, not as an adult. Forrest Gump appears clean, neatly dressed, and expressive. And Forrest's posture and mannerisms suggest innocence and simplicity, portraying a childlike stereotype. Language expressed by Forrest. Forrest's language and speech patterns are simple and not complex. Other characters often call him stupid or slow. Disability and storyline of Forrest Gump. The storyline centers around success despite disabilities. Forrest becomes a war hero, an athlete, a businessman, and a father. His disability plays a role in shaping his character, but does not define him or his worth. Disabled lifestyles of Forrest Gump. Forrest lives independently, works, travels, and forms meaningful relationships. The film implies Forrest's success is rare and not usually attainable for most people with similar disabilities.
In Forrest Gump. Forrest is kind and respectful. Other characters often underestimate Forrest and his abilities. He depends emotionally on other people, but later develops into a caretaker himself when he has his son. Forrest is capable of independence a lot of the time. Perceptions of disabilities in Forrest Gump. The portrayal enforces the idea that a person with a disability must accomplish extraordinary achievements to be successful. It can set unrealistic expectations about independence and achievement. Final analysis of Forrest Gump. For our positive analysis, the film positively represents people with disabilities by highlighting kindness, resilience, equality, and independence and success. It shows that people with disabilities have dignity and can live life to its fullest by achieving goals and developing meaningful relationships. It encourages the audience to see individuals beyond their disabilities. For our negative analysis, the film negatively represents people with disabilities by implying individuals with disabilities need to do the impossible to achieve any goals or success. The film could better reflect the realism of disabilities in everyday life. Finding Nemo 2003. At the turn of the decade, more films would portray disabilities in media. Another popular film released in 2003 was Finding Nemo, the story of Marlin looking for his son Nemo. He has to team up with a developmentally challenged fish, Dory, to find his way across the ocean. This begs the question, how does this movie do portraying Dory? Visual images of disabilities in Finding Nemo. In Finding Nemo, Marlin was portrayed as the protective parent. He also treated Nemo like a baby because of his disability. Dory's scatterbrain optimism can be seen as a comic relief female trope. Still, the film challenges stereotypes through diversity of species, personalities, and abilities. Dory's short-term memory loss and Nemo's small fin was not portrayed as flaws to pity, but as features that shape resilience. The ocean setting itself represents difference and inclusion rather than tokenism. Nearly every fish or creature has a role that contributes to problem solving. The movie showed empathy and inclusion, portraying diversity in ability and personality as sources of collective strength. Finding Nemo teaches viewers to value diversity and resilience without relying on stereotypes or visual tokenism. Language expressed in Finding Nemo. The characters use humor rather than pity or patronizing tones when discussing differences, such as Nemo's lucky fin. Marlin and others use this phrase affectionately, showing person-first language. In the beginning of the movie, the language emphasizes limitation. For example, phrases like, "You think you can do these things, but you just can't, Nemo." It reflects Marlin's fear, not Nemo's capability. Later, the tone shifts towards empowerment and belief, reinforcing a growth mindset. Disability and storyline of Finding Nemo. Nemo and Dory demonstrate strength and ability, breaking stereotypes about disability. Nemo's lucky fin doesn't hold him back, it just changes how he tackles challenges. Dory's forgetfulness creates hurdles, but also moments of insight. Together, they are depicted as capable heroes, not helpless side characters. Disability is portrayed as a symbol of diversity and strength rather than tragedy. It becomes a catalyst for character development, empathy, and connection, rather than something to overcome. Disability is embraced and integrated, illustrating that differences enrich identity and foster meaningful growth.
Disabled lifestyles in Finding Nemo. While Finding Nemo takes place in a whimsical ocean world, it reflects genuine human emotions and relationships. Marlin's overprotectiveness, Dory's forgetfulness, and Nemo's search for independence mirror real-life challenges of parenting, friendship, and growth. The film also presents a believable sense of community through its depiction of varied lifestyles, from the family-oriented reef to the collaborative tank gang in the aquarium. These diverse groups illustrate how individuals with different abilities and personalities coexist and rely on one another. Disabled relationships in Finding Nemo. Power and status. The movie shows power through emotion and trust rather than strength. At first, Marlin's fear-driven control limits Nemo's freedom. Over time, Nemo's growing confidence and independence show that real strength comes from cooperation, not domination. At the beginning, Nemo relies on Marlin for protection and guidance, while Marlin depends on Nemo emotionally as a way to cope with past loss. Dory, through appearing dependent due to her memory challenges, displays remarkable resiliency and adaptability. She persists through obstacles and approaches problems with creativity. By the film's conclusion, all three characters embrace mutual independence, learning to trust and value each other's strengths. Perception of disabilities in Finding Nemo. Finding Nemo offers a positive and empowering portrayal of individuals with disabilities. It shows Nemo's small fin and Dory's memory challenges as natural parts of who they are, not as flaws to be fixed. The movie promotes a view of disability grounded in acceptance, ability, and individuality. Its message encourages empathy and reduces stigma for audiences of all ages, showing that those with differences can be just as strong and capable. Final analysis of Finding Nemo. Positive. It promotes empathy, inclusion, and respect for differences. It shows that people with disabilities are capable, brave, and essential to group success. It uses humor and warmth rather than pity or judgment. And it demonstrates realistic and emotional experience such as fear, trust, and self-acceptance. Negative aspects. Some moments lightly reinforce overprotection or underestimation, i.e., Marlin's fear limiting Nemo's independence. Dory's memory loss is occasionally played for comic effect, which could risk minimizing her struggle. So, how does a decade change the portrayals of disabilities in media? Disabilities pre-2000s. Films pre-2000s often took a savior role in how disabilities were portrayed. Movies like Forrest Gump did a lot for portraying people with disabilities. However, they often have issues of infantilizing or evangelicalizing their subjects. Films post-2000s more often take roles in portraying more complex characters with disabilities. Characters are not perfectly pure, like Forrest, but rather a normal person with problems who happens to have a disability they deal with.